Well, today's sermon is one of those sermons that I've always known I would have to preach, but I never really wanted to preach. Even though I stood here 8 years ago and I reminded you that God has been at work in Oscoda long before I got here, and that God would still be at work in Oscoda long after I am gone, I've still been in denial that this day was coming, and so I think have many of you. I think I also underestimated just how hard this day was going to be. You can ask my family. I have agonized this week over what words to say this morning. Maybe it's sentiment, maybe it's pride, maybe I just want you all to know just how much you've meant to me, how much you've meant to my family, but I really, really, really wanted this sermon to be perfect. Thank you. I appreciate your confidence. My hope is that I could bring to you today a sermon that would be well-crafted and graceful and neatly sum up all the lessons that we've learned together, the challenges we've overcome with just the right touch of grief at saying farewell and that heartfelt note of hope for the future. I wanted to say something familiar and at the same time new and inspiring for you. I wanted to say something very timely that would perfectly address where we are today, but also be timeless, full of rich and lasting truth. I wanted to say something simple that you could carry with you, something that was at the same time profound, that would leave you marveling even now at the depth and the wisdom of my faith. I wanted to say something just exactly right, but I have no idea what that just exactly right something might be. You've heard me preach before. You've lived alongside me, worked alongside me, prayed alongside me for 8 years. You know who I am. You know what I believe, and you know what I'm about. And so I don't think that I have anything old and new, simple and profound, grief-filled and hopeful, lofty and humble, timely and timeless to say to you today. This is what I do have to say. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for taking a chance on me, for allowing me to stumble and to grow, and for teaching me by your words, by your examples, by inviting me into your hearts and into your lives, and by entering into mine, for teaching me what it means to be a minister of Christ. Some of you may remember that first Sunday 8 years ago when I was mistaken more than once for a new member of the youth group. I stood before you and I preached very nervously from a sermon that was printed on blue paper because I had not yet found the box with the white printer paper. And I celebrated communion for the very first time, not just as your pastor, but as anybody's pastor. It was my first time to break the bread and say those words, "This is my body broken for you." Now, what you didn't know then, what you don't remember, but I remember very well, is how anxious I was the night before. And at the end of that first Sunday, I whispered to my husband, "Do you think it really was Jesus in the bread and in the cup?" And what I meant was, am I really a pastor? Did what we did that day, was it really Holy Communion, or were we just pretending? Was it really Jesus? And I think he laughed at me. I'm pretty sure he said yes. But I know now, looking back, that our first communion together, it was a true communion indeed, that the body of Christ, broken and risen, offered life and offered strength that day. But not so much because a few weeks before a bishop's hands had hovered over my head. It was because of you. Because of all of you who came alongside me and proclaimed by your worship, by your witness, by your very presence, that Christ is here indeed. In the midst of friends and strangers alike, in our hope and in our brokenness, even if our hands and our knees and our voices are shaking, Christ is with us every step of the way. So I want to thank you for taking a chance on that very scared young woman. Thank you for inviting me into the holy places of your lives, for inviting me to your backyards and to your bedsides, and for trusting me with your greatest joys and your hardest questions and your deepest sorrows. Thank you for letting me hold your babies and claim your children for God. Thank you for letting me hold your hands and your parents' hands and your spouse's hands and your friends' hands and claim that good news that we are all children of God. And in life and in death, God is with us, and we are not alone. Thank you for celebrating my daughter's birth with an embarrassing abundance of blankets and diapers and hugs and kisses. Thank you for teaching her what it means to be welcomed and loved unconditionally, even when she ran in the sanctuary and she danced during the Christmas Eve service and she crawled under the pews and meowed like a cat and she cried through the sermon and she spilled juice on the carpet and she drew on the parsonage walls. I'm really sorry, Bernie. On the days when she reached out to shake your hands after the service, and on the days when she turned away, you still loved her. So thank you for being her people. Even though in time she may forget some of your names, I know her whole life is going to be marked by the love that she learned right here from you. Thank you for promising when my son was baptized that you would pray for him, that you would celebrate the love of God in his life. And thank you even now for celebrating his life and for keeping his love alive. Thank you for reaching out to your community, for taking the words that I preached on Sundays and then on Saturdays and putting them into action on Mondays and Wednesdays and Thursdays in ways that I could never have anticipated or imagined. I hope you never forget that in God's hands, $5 here and $5 there can add up to a heifer that will change the life of a family and a whole community forever. Never forget that in God's hands, even the smallest gift, even just a few loaves and fishes, can multiply and change lives beyond measure. You are, in so many ways, the body of Christ in this world, and I have been so grateful and so blessed and so humbled and so honored to be a part of it. Now, what I'm not going to say this morning, I'm not going to say goodbye. I'm going to call on the wisdom of our Ojibwe brothers and sisters who have no word for goodbye, but instead say Vama Pi, which loosely translated means later, till I see you again. Because I will see you again in this world or in the next by the grace of God. There are no goodbyes. But love is stronger than any parting, and life gets the last word always and forever. As for the wisdom that I want to leave you with, my parting words for you today are just this: keep going. Keep growing, keep loving, keep welcoming, keep hoping, keep praying, keep giving and keep on forgiving, keep believing, keep bearing one another's burdens, keep enduring in your faith by God's grace and by God's love. Friends, be kind to your new pastor. When he ruffles your feathers, when he can't find the offering plates and he forgets the doxology, when he forgets your name, be kind to him. When he struggles to find his footing, help him. Stand alongside him. Give him the opportunity to get to know you and to walk alongside you too. Pray for him. Pray for him, and remember that terrified little girl that you prayed for once. The one you decided to give a chance to, and then when she messed it up, you gave her another. And remember how she and how you were blessed along the way. Be kind to one another. Shine your light in your churches and in your communities, in your schools and in your homes, at work and at the grocery store and everywhere you go. Let them know you as Christians, as people of faith, as members of the Ascota churches. Let them know you. Let them see you coming. Let them remember you and celebrate you by your love. That is how I celebrate you today. That is how I will carry you with me as people of faith and people of hope and people of grace and people of love.